so many new pieces to this IU football team.
To me, that's going to set the tone on how you get ready for games on Saturday in the fall.
I would put that Indiana room up against anybody else in the conference, and that's something that we typically don't even come close to saying.
If you want to get total sickos committee about it, there's a position battle at long snapper too.
This is the Hoosier Huddle Podcast, part of the College Huddle Podcast Network.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to the Hoosier Huddle podcast presented by Heartwork Brewing. Today we are breaking down Indiana's defense in our season preview, but first a word from Heartwork Brewing.
At Heartwork Brewing, we are fiercely independent. From our variety of craft beers to our artisan Neapolitan-style pizzas, we put our heart into our work. We offer a full menu of draft beers, from our award-winning lagers to IPAs, sours, even our house-made seltzer. Our Northside Taproom has a variety of events and spaces for groups of all sizes. Heartwork is proud to be a locally and veteran-owned business here in Bloomington, just a stone's throw from Memorial Stadium and Assembly Hall at 1703 North College Avenue. Visit heartworkbrewing.com for hours and event info.
All right, TJ, welcome back. We're here to talk about Indiana's defense. They were tops in the country last year against the run. Number 2, I believe, in points scored. They had a very, very good defense last year. They lose some pieces off of it with CJ West and James Carpenter, as well as some other guys, Jalen Walker at linebacker, but there is a lot of talent coming back. Let's talk about defensive overview. TJ, what are your first thoughts on defense?
Certainly not very often that you get a defense or a team at all returning an All-American on each level. You have an All-American coming back on the line with Mikhail Kamara, All-American at linebacker with Aiden Fisher, All-American in the secondary with cornerback D'Angelo Pons. That's a heck of a starting point. It's again, that's a rarity. You add in a lot of other good returning pieces. Just a few names that pop in your head: Amari Farrell, really good playmaking safety for Indiana. Certainly capable of playing a couple of different positions in that secondary as a versatile player. Jamari Sharp, a returning corner that has a very high ceiling. On the defensive line, you bring back a guy like Tyreek Tucker, that's ready for a larger role this season after contributing last year. Another James Madison transfer that seems to be hitting. That's kind of what they do. Elijah Hardy at linebacker. Again, a guy that contributed him stepping into a larger role. So a really good mix of returning stars along with returning depth pieces. And then you add in, some really good portal pieces that IU was able to add from the G5 level and from the Power 5 or from the Power 4 level with guys like Kellen Wyatt transferring from Maryland. And then at the G5 level, you bring in Dominic Ratcliffe, or Hosea Wheeler from Western Kentucky, kind of following that CJ West mold. So it seems like a really good mix with the leader of that group being Aiden Fisher. We'll talk about him when we discuss the linebackers, but a true coach on the field for you. And he's so connected with Bryant Haynes, the defensive coordinator. Of course, he's also back, so you feel good about that. There's just not a whole lot to feel pessimistic about with the defense. A couple concerns, which we'll get into.
Yeah, let's start with the defensive line. You've got, and we'll include the stud here, TJ. Yeah. You've got a lot of talent coming back. Obviously, the headliner is Mikhail Kamara, who is not shy about what his goals are for the season. He wants to break the school sack record, which was set by Greg Middleton in 2007 at 16. If Mikael Kamara comes close to that, IU's defense is in business. He'll be at the stud position. Opposite him, you'll have Stephen Daly, who comes over from Kent State, just like C.J. West last year, or Kellen Wyatt, who's been having a good camp over at that strong side defensive end position. He's coming over from Maryland, where he kind of played that rush end, stand-up linebacker position or stand-up defensive end position. He's a guy whose name, when I went back and watched a whole bunch of Maryland games from last year, his name comes up at least once a game. And then in camp as well, the Big Ten Network during their trip there mentioned him. And then again, Kirk Cignetti yesterday mentioned how good of a camp Kellen Wyatt is having. At the backup stud position, I think a guy people need to keep an eye on is Daniel Ndukwe. He had a really good year last year as a true freshman. He is no longer a stick with giant arms. He's put on the necessary weight to, kind of play, get more snaps. He's not going to replace Mikael Kamara, and they're going to keep Kamara on the field as long as possible. But if you could get Ndukwe in there for some snaps, especially early in the season, kind of save Kamara for later in the season and keep him fresh, that's big too. What are your thoughts on the defensive line?
I think you look at it in terms of replacing C.J. West and James Carpenter, two guys that took up a lot of space in the middle, created a lot of penetration against opposing offenses in the middle of that line, which is really troublesome for offenses to deal with. And the guys that they're counting on to do that in that middle are going to be Hosea Wheeler, Dominic Ratcliffe, Tyreek Tucker are going to be the main three in my mind that they're hoping can create that disruption in the middle. That's one of the big reasons that IU's linebackers were able to have such good seasons, is because those guys took up a lot of attention of blockers. There's a hope that Hosea Wheeler can be that type of impactful force that IU had, maybe not quite as good as West, but then Ratcliffe and Tyreek Tucker can jump in it and help out with that as well. And then on the outside, Kamara, a lot has been made about him kind of switching positions. We'll see how that plays out. What have you seen just in the limited time you've been able to, the media's been able to watch practice? Have you seen anything noticeable in kind of how Mikael Kamara is being utilized?
Not really. And I don't want to forget about Mario Landino there in the middle too. He's definitely looks like he's gotten bigger. But as far as Kamara goes, we haven't seen the offense go against the defense.
Yeah.
He looks quick in drills. He's clearly, when you look at him go through drills, you could tell he's an elite player. They'll put him on the field wherever he will be most successful. I don't think you're going to know that how he's actually going to be at stud through the first 3 games. You're going to have to probably wait till Illinois to see how people adjust on him. But if there are matchups they could take advantage with him on the other side of the field, they're going to switch it up. I trust this coaching staff to make those adjustments. So we'll see. But yeah, we haven't gotten to see, offense go against defense. But it sounds like him and Carter Smith have been going head to head. When we talked to both of them, Kamara calls Carter Smith one of the best linemen in the country, and Carter Smith is, very glowingly talking about Mikael Kamara as one of the best defensive linemen in the country. So it's kind of an NFL matchup there, a future NFL matchup there. Mm-hmm. And that, as the cliche goes, iron sharpens iron.
Sure.
they're probably sick of each other by now and ready to hit somebody else in some other colored uniform. But you're
Yeah,
not
we're ready for that too.
Yeah, in practice, you're not going to go up against a better tackle than Carter Smith in the Big Ten, probably, and you're
Right.
probably not going to go after many more rush ends like Mikael Kamara. So let's move over to the
Real
linebacker.
quick. Beyond that, one guy that we have not mentioned yet that it's going to be interesting to see how he factors in is Quentin Clark. Um, just as probably this season as a situational edge rusher would be my guess. A guy that migrated from linebacker, has bulked up. Redshirt freshman, and the athleticism is there, the quick twitch is there. Whether or not he's able to have an impact as a pass rusher this season, we'll see. But I thought it was really interesting when they made that switch. It has stuck. That is where he's going to be. And, I think you would hope that some combination of uh, looking at the other side, Wyatt, Daly, Clark, and Dukeway, a combination of those guys give defenses enough to think about that they can't exclusively focus on Kamara, right? That's your goal for the other side there. You don't want to have a weak link on that other side, and I think IU has enough there that they won't have that.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to double, triple, chip block Kamara anyway. But
Right.
what you want to do is make them think about it and say, hey, maybe we can't triple team him, or maybe we can't double team him and we just need to chip him with the tight end or running
Well,
back.
It's to make them pay when they
Yeah.
focus a bunch of guys on Kamara, make them pay for the guys that they're not paying attention to.
Yeah, you're
That's
making
what you need to do.
Yeah, you got to make them make a choice. It's kind of like, back in the day when you played the Heat with LeBron, Bosch, and Wade. Is you got to who's going to beat you today,
Mhm.
and you just have to choose correctly. But yeah, Quentin Clark, um, it's tough taking him from linebacker just because that position group, we'll talk about it here in a second, is a little thin, and he probably sticks at defensive line unless there's a really high need at linebacker. But his athleticism should allow him, at least through the first 3 games, put on tape that he could get to the quarterback and just go after the ball carrier and make tackles. And I think that's what he's best at. Still just a redshirt freshman. Dealt with injuries last year. Didn't really get to play all that much, but from what I heard, coaches loved him in practice. And we'll see. We'll see if he can make an impact in some Big Ten teams, in some Big Ten games. He also
We
could
didn't
get
even
back
say
on.
Landino. We didn't even say Mario Landino,
I
who's the
did.
guy that they really like.
I snuck him in there
Okay.
earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, Landino looks big. He's definitely not going to play on the outside all that much. I think he's more of an interior lineman.
Right.
But yeah, he had a really, really good freshman year, and I think he adds a little bit of bulk and depth to that defensive line. But let's get to linebackers, TJ. Starts and stops with Aiden Fisher. He's an All-American for a reason. He's an extension of Bryant Haynes out at that linebacker position. If you haven't watched college football in the last 2 years, they have radios in the helmets now. He's the green dot guy who has the radio in his helmet. He makes the calls. He gets the defensive line in position to where they need to be, and he did an outstanding job of that last year. He's continuing to do that this year. Again, we don't get to see practice in terms of offense against defense, but he's a super vocal leader. He leads by example as well. He's the first guy into drills. He's, not shying away from contact. He'll talk to the younger guys, make sure they do the drill correctly. He'll take coaching. He's just the guy you want on your defense to play. Next to him, you have Elijah Hardy. Coach Signetti said that he was dealing with a groin injury, but he was back at practice. We'll see. This is where you kind of get nervous, TJ, is if Hardy or Isaiah Jones goes down, there's really not a ton behind them that's proven. You have Caden Turner, who had a nice 2022 year, and you thought maybe could build onto that, hasn't really taken advantage of it, or hasn't been given the chance to take advantage of it. And then after that, you're looking at freshmen. You got um, PJ Nelson back there, but you need these these linebackers to stay healthy, because after PJ Nelson, it's Amari Kamara, who I believe is a walk on. Yeah, he is Mikael Kamara's brother. But that's where you might, if there is an injury, you might get creative in moving Quentin Clark back, or playing a bigger guy like Kellen Wyatt, and switching up your defense. They do list Kellen Wyatt at like 257, which is gigantic for a linebacker. Um, so that's my take
correct.
on the linebackers. Is you just got to cross your fingers, hope they stay healthy. Hardy's really good. I don't know if he's the athlete that Jalen Walker was, but he definitely has the instincts that Jalen Walker has, and he's shown it. He showed it last year with the pick six, showed in the spring game this year, and he's only going to get better. But after that, this is the position group. We'll talk about safety too, which has other issues. But this is a position group where you go, please, please, please stay healthy.
I think that's 100% accurate. It's Aiden Fisher. You love everything about what Aiden Fisher brings to the position of linebacker, the way he plays it, and to your program and your university. He's a fantastic representative of your program. After that, Elijah Hardy, clear number 2, it looks like. Isaiah Jones, you feel good about that. Very solid player. He had a good year last year. He's a good tackler. He's capable of knowing exactly what he's supposed to do. Not the high-end athlete that Elijah Hardy or Jalen Walker, but certainly good. Caden Turner, we don't really know. That's a question mark. Now, I do think it is somewhat notable. We say we trust the coaching staff, and we do. And I think we can all acknowledge this coaching staff clearly knows what they're doing. They did not choose to pursue guys at the linebacker position in the transfer portal. They were out there, and I think that's telling. I think that tells you they feel good about Caden Turner's ability to fill in, or they feel good about PJ Nelson's ability to contribute, or they really like Jeff Utzinger. He was a good contributor on special teams. So I think there's something to it that maybe there's more depth at that position than meets our eyes.
Yeah,
Now,
and I think early on too, that's why these non-conference games are so important, where I think your rotation early on is wide open. Like you said, Jeff Utzinger had a really good year on special teams. He has the size to survive in the Big Ten at the linebacker position. Can he give Caden Turner or Elijah Hardy or Isaiah Jones a chance to get off the field for 8 to 10 snaps a game in those first 3 games or more? I mean, if you're telling me that Jeff Utzinger can spell them for 8 snaps a game over the first 3 games, that's a home run. That is, 24 snaps on defense where they're probably not going to get dinged up. I don't, weird things happen, but if they're off the field, they're probably not going to get dinged up. So Caden Turner had a good spring practice. I think he believes he's going to get his shot. Otherwise, the transfer portal's right there. But when him and Isaiah Jones came in together, you thought that Caden Turner was going to be the one to kind of hit it before Isaiah Jones, and that's kind of flip-flopped, which is fine. It speaks to Isaiah Jones's talent as well. But yeah, you're right. They didn't go get a portal linebacker, although they could probably move somebody there if they needed to in an emergency. But Yeah,
Let's hope we
that's a
don't find out.
position. Yeah, it's a position you don't really want to find out, but it's also a position you have to watch closely in the first 3 games to who's coming in second and third teams. Let's move over to safeties and rovers. And I think the big story here is the eligibility of Lou Moore. And we've talked, Heather Dinich didn't break it, neither did anybody else. We've talked about this uh, for kind of months, is that he's waiting for this waiver um, to get approved by the NCAA or not approved, and waiting on court cases. Kurt Signetti talked about it on Monday. There are 2 groups of guys, and the precedent was set by Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. There are 2 sets of guys. There are guys who are going into year 5, and then guys who are going into year 5.5. And Lou Moore is part of that group that is going to year 5.5. And that seems to be the holdup on whether or not these guys are going to get that extra year, because they've already had five years in the program, even if he's played 4. That's the hang up. We'll see. I don't like leaving the fate of something up to the NCAA. They seem to have nonsensical answers, and we're now, what are we, 18 days, 17 days away from kickoff, and you don't know if Lou Moore, who might be a starting safety for your squad, is going to be able to play. He has been practicing. He has been in practice, and he went through spring. He's gone through fall camp, and I don't think they're going to hold him out. And I don't know if there's a penalty for practicing. Like, you lose scholarships for practicing an ineligible player, but I don't think he's ineligible until they say he's ineligible. But that kind of messes up that room a little bit when you're kind of, relying on Lou Moore to start at that safety position opposite Amari Farrell. But you do have some options. Devin Boykin plays that rover position. He can move to safety. Bryson Bonds is a redshirt senior. He came on and had a nice year last year. Can he take that starting role? Byron Baldwin is a freshman who could play either position. Does he get thrown into the fire early? And then Jaja Boyd, who's a redshirt freshman, is at rover. But maybe some of these younger guys, Ciante Stewart, get thrown into the fire here. It makes you a little bit uncomfortable because Lou Moore is a big piece back at that safety position.
It does. There's really, IU is at the mercy of the waiting game for the NCAA. As you said, it based on previous instances, it would seem like until you hear something, you're going to play him. But I can't imagine that we would get to the season opener and they wouldn't have heard anything. But I also can't imagine that it's, under 3 weeks out and that's the case. So
yeah. I would assume something got
happen.
scheduled. Yeah, I assume something got scheduled in court if national writers have just now picked it up and came on their radar. So I don't know. Things move slowly, especially these days and age in the courts. But yeah, it would be silly to not have something before August 30th. Right. Heck, even before, as you said, week 0.
IU is proceeding and have practiced as if Lewis Moore is going to be eligible to play.
Yep.
I do think it's probably highly likely, given this staff's, success, that they have planned for the alternative as well.
They have. When you see them go through drills, they've plugged other people at that safety position, especially in the spring when things were a little bit more unknown.
So what do you think? What do you think is their most likely backup plan if Lewis Moore is ineligible? They find that out. Let's say they find that out, this weekend. Lewis Moore is ineligible. What is Indiana's backup plan at safety, and rover outside of Amari Farrell?
I think you put Bryson Bonds at safety, where Lou Moore was. You put Boykin at least through the first 3 games and see how they do. Boykin at rover, and then you get Byron Baldwin on the field as much as possible. See if you basically do that position battle between him and Bonds and see who can, who starts against Illinois. You need to get Baldwin on the field, and that's the key, because if he's everything says he's ready to play, but if he's not, that's you're basically losing 2 safeties that you were trying to usually count on. Although Sig says he doesn't count on freshmen, Byron Baldwin, they were kind of counting on him to play. And he has the capability of doing that. Whether or not you could do it in a real game remains to be seen. But that's if I was coaching and Lou Moore was ineligible, Bryson Bonds would get the start day 1, and whatever 2 series with Bryson Bonds, 2 series with Byron Baldwin, I would get both of them in with different guys at the safety position, work on communication and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I like that plan because it does not take Devin Boykin from his best, what you think is his best position, rover, and put him into his second best position of safety, and then plug in a backup at 2 positions.
Yep.
So I think that makes a lot more sense to do it that way than other hypotheticals. Now, Baldwin, I do think it's worth pointing out, 4-star recruit, major recruiting win for Indiana to get him to Bloomington. And he played a very high quality high school football schedule. I understand it's not the Big Ten. It's still a big jump in competition. That's very true. But, Byron Baldwin played in that DMV area against a lot of competition. They traveled and played a ambitious schedule that should give him a slight leg up on being ready to contribute early.
Yeah, and he was in for
those
spring
first 3
practice.
games, those first 3 games are going to be very telling for the staff if they need to lean on somebody, and also just a chance that even if Lou Moore is eligible, to see, okay, is Baldwin ready to have more snaps than we had maybe initially thought.
Yeah, and there's
him,
the third alternative of they hadn't made a decision yet, so they play Lou Moore. I still think you need to get Bryson Bonds and Byron Baldwin snaps, even if that's the case. So logically, you'd think that they would have a decision, but we're talking about the NCAA, and they're a lot of the times illogical. Let's move over to corner.
But let's not forget Amari Farrell, really good part of that safety group. So they do have that absolutely. At least as a write that down and permanent marker in that lineup as a piece that exactly what you're getting, and that's a really good playmaker there. So let's move to corner.
Let's move to corner. Obviously, D'Angelo Pons, All-American. He's locked up that 1 corner position, probably backed up by Amari Knighton, NIU transfer, who came over, was in for spring. At the other side, you have it's kind of becoming you're kind of getting a position battle between Jamari Sharp and Rylan Gandy over there. Again, 2 players who played a lot of Power 4 football. Rylan Gandy was an all-ACC player and comes in from Pitt. So you have a lot of experience in your top 4 corners you feel pretty comfortable with. Now, look, if D'Angelo Pons goes down, is it going to hurt? Yes, absolutely. Anytime you lose an All-American who takes away half the field, it's going to hurt. But going into the season, you're probably feeling that this is the strongest position group on the defense. We said it in the spring practice, and then you have redshirt freshman Dontre Henderson, and then 2 freshmen, Jalen Bell and Zachary Smith. And Jalen Bell is a guy who, he might redshirt just because you're not going to burn him unless you absolutely have to with the depth they have at corner. But he's going to be a guy who's going to be a player in the future.
Yeah, the near future. Yeah, I think
Yes.
as early as next year, they're going to be counting on him. I would guess. But you know, if you don't pay a lot of attention to other college football teams, you can kind of gloss over the fact that going 4 deep at cornerback and feeling good about it is,
It's a
you
rarity.
can kind of take that for granted. That is not at all common now in college football.
It's not even
In the
common in
era
the
of the transfer
NFL.
portal, I mean, it is hard to find cornerbacks you feel good about. A lot of teams have one good one. Some teams have one great one and one that they feel okay about. Uh, your top end teams have maybe one guy that they view as a shutdown, and then a couple guys they feel good about. There are not very many out there that have four that have proven experience and proven high end production. And it's an impressive group that IU's put together. If they can stay healthy, they're going to give opposing passing attacks a lot of problems, especially as we talked about earlier. If the pass rush can remain effective with Mikael Kamara and a slew of other potential guys, you get that pass rush, you get this group of corners. That's a really good foundation for a pass defense.
I agree. Let's get to some superlatives here, TJ, before we head out. If blank performs well, IU will be successful. I'll let you go first.
Yeah, so many potential obvious answers here. The one that I'm going to go maybe slightly off of the expected path, I will go with Hosea Wheeler. Um, I do think, I personally view it as, I know exactly what I'm getting in Mikael Kamara, D'Angelo Pons, and Aiden Fisher. And is it taking it for granted? Yes, I suppose I am. But beyond those, I'm looking for who's that next guy that can elevate this defense beyond just those three guys. And Hosea Wheeler, I think, has the potential based on what we've heard from fall camp, and what we've seen on him from breaking down film. I think that he has the ability to have a CJ West like impact on the defensive front.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key cog if everybody else plays up to par. And I'll take a page out of your book. I'm going to go Devin Boykin. If Devin Boykin plays well at that rover position, we saw what Terry Jones did last year, that rover position with blitzing, stopping guys in the backfield, tackles for loss, just being a pain in the butt at that position would be huge. You have two corners who could hold their own. You have an all-American pass rusher, and you should be pretty stout up front. If not, I mean, if you could just let Devin Boykin run around and make plays, that makes your linebacker group that much better. That makes your safety group that much better, and things like that. So let's go breakout star, TJ.
I have kind of touted this guy since the beginning of last season. Nothing that I've seen since then has deterred that. Daniel Ndukwe is a breakout star. I just really like his ability to get into the opposing backfield. I think that he has a rare combination of length and quickness with his added bulk. I think he could be in for a really good season.
I'm going to go with Kellen Wyatt. I know it's tough to say a transfer upperclassman is a breakout star, but he's the guy that, like you said at the beginning, if people are you're going to have to, if he plays well, you're going to have to pick your poison between him and Kamara. So I think with Kamara garnering early attention, I think Kellen Wyatt's going to be that, oh wow, we forgot about this guy. So
Yeah,
All right, closing.
Wyatt's a really good pick, and what you like about him, you mentioned it, is that proven production at this level. I mean,
Yep.
you know that he is really capable of having an impact on games in the Big Ten against teams that you're going to be seeing and competing against. It doesn't always translate when guys come up from a different level. I use pretty good hit rate, but doesn't always work. With Wyatt, you don't need to worry about it translating. You've already seen it.
Yeah, let's go closing thoughts. Closing thoughts on defense, TJ.
I think it is incredibly unlikely that IU is able to again lead the nation in rush defense and to hold opponents, to what was it, 15 point? Let me look it up. 15.6 points per game. Those numbers are so good. I don't know if you're going to get that again. That written, I do not think that this defense takes a noticeable step back. The numbers might not be quite as good and might not be quite as dominant. The schedule is tougher, as we've talked about. But I think that it will continue to be a defense that makes life miserable for opposing offenses. It starts with Aiden Fisher, such a good leader for you. It starts with D'Angelo Pond. It starts with Mikhail Kamara. That trio of guys coming from James Madison, you can't say enough good things about them as players and as leaders based on everything we hear from Bloomington. But what will determine whether or not this team is able to just be really good or to again be elite on the defensive end is how those newcomers like Wheeler, like Wyatt, how they mesh with the existing group. So we already know the existing group is really good, but if these portal newcomers, if they can mesh together like last year's unit did, this is going to be an elite defense once again.
Yeah, the talent is there. The depth at some positions worries me, especially if Lou Moore's thing goes the opposite way of what
Sure.
people want. But you look at the talent at some of these positions. You've upgraded from now. Sean Ashbury and Terry Jones are really good, but now you're bringing in, instead of an all Sun Belt player, you're bringing in an all ACC player. And at multiple positions. You have it at Ryland Gandy as well. You're bringing in a Big Ten rush end instead of somebody from another group of five. But the problem, what I want to see from this defense is, can you build that depth in the season early and then go? Now, numbers are going to be numbers. They're skewed by the teams you play. Kennesaw State's going to run the run and hoot offense, and they might get 150 yards rushing and 160 total yards. So your pass defense might look really, really good, and your rush defense, well, man, you gave up 150 yards to Kennesaw State. That never happens, but that's what happens when you play these options teams. But for IU, the defense right now is probably a little bit further along than the offense. At least didn't sound like that in the scrimmage, based on guys being out. Amari Farrell lost his mother, so our thoughts go out to him. D'Angelo Pons went out with an ankle injury, but returned to practice the next day. And then Elijah Hardy missed the scrimmage as well. So you didn't get a full 100% defense, but I do think this defense is probably on par with the talent, maybe a little bit past that talent from last year. But yeah, making up for CJ West is going to be key as well. So that does it for today's podcast. Thank you, TJ, for hopping on as always to break down. We'll do special teams and then a full season preview next week. So Finally got to ask Sig about special teams on Monday. So it sounds good. That's That's my specialty, is special teams. So keep coming back to HoosierHuddle.com. We have all of our first glance previews are out. All of our position previews are out. Our practice reports go out as long as we get to see practice. Our press conference reports are up. Those are free. They're not behind any paywall that everybody else gets to go to those things. So then also come and enjoy basketball coverage. TJ had 3 games that he did not go to Puerto Rico. So it's not TJ had 3 games down in Puerto Rico. He watched the games via social media, broke it down, has a nice write-up on the takeaways. But hey, 3-0, I think it proves what you're made out of a little bit. And hey, 3-0 is better than 0-3. And we got some happy people in Hoosier Nation. So come back to Hoosier Huddle, subscribe. Our summer deal's going through until August 30th on the kickoff. $15 gets you the entire year. After that, it doubles to a whopping $30. So keep coming back. And then, of course, follow us on Twitter at Hoosier_Huddle. Thank you.